The Indian institution of education known as Gurukula is the most ancient tradition of imparting knowledge, receiving knowledge from guru to shishya, from teacher to student. It is a most sublime methodology the great rishis of our tradition in Bharat had envisioned for how knowledge should be disseminated. The idea of a student residing in the home of the teacher, in an ashram, in a setting where that teacher not only nurtures and educates that student, but also comes to know all of the strengths, weaknesses, and is able to guide that student. Such an environment in which that education, that knowledge will be able to blossom and grow. Such a tradition is there in Bharat. Such a tradition, the Gurukula system, we have lost sight of. And in today's video, we are going to be looking at some of the highlights of life in Gurukula. Now looking at me, you may think, can you speak about Gurukula? Well, even though being from outside of India, I was blessed with the opportunity in my childhood, in my young days, to study in Gurukula. So let me share with you what a day in the life of Gurukula really is like. Our day starts at around 4 a.m. Our wake-up bell is there, after which we begin our hygienic activities like taking a bath, etc. We then proceed to the mandir for Vedic chanting classes and meditation. Our first serious, intense philosophical class begins at around 7 and it goes for about an hour or so, where we discuss various topics from Vedas, Upanishad, etc. And that goes for about an hour with our Acharya. All of your energy and intelligence has to be directed in that 1 hour class to be able to absorb all of the deep concepts and teachings that are there in that morning philosophy class. After that class at around 8, 8:10 or so, we have our breakfast, which for some of us may be the most important meal of the day. Then we have a little bit of break where we can, refresh, relax a little bit. Some of us choose to revise or, reflect and recollect what we learned in the morning class. And then around, let's say, 9:30 or so, if there's any seva in the ashram, if there's any work that needs to be done in the ashram, then we try to get that done. And around 10 o'clock or so, we begin our Sanskrit classes. So in our ashram, in our Gurukula, there were different levels of Sanskrit. So there was level 1, level 2, level 3 Sanskrit, as well as a special class for those who were studying the Vyakarana. So there was a text called as Laghu Siddhanta Kaumani, which we studied along with our general Sanskrit studies. After these Sanskrit classes are over, we begin our Stotram chanting classes. So in that Stotram chanting class around 11:30 a.m. or so, we used to learn all of the famous stotrams which we may all be familiar with, whether it be Vishnu Sahasranama Stotram or Dakshinamurti Stotram. Many stotrams we learned to chant and sing in that period. Around 12:10 or so, midday time, we had our lunch. So our bhiksha, our anna kshetra, we were able to eat, and by Guru's grace, by God's grace, we were able to receive meals every day as part of our ashram traditions. There are many ashrams in India today who are not able to feed their students. So if you've reached this far in this video, and from what you've heard about Gurukula, if you can find an opportunity to donate to help support ashrams where students are learning, where students are being taught in Gurukula tradition, please do make use of such an opportunity to offer seva. After our Anna Kshetra time, eating lunch is completed, generally there is a short 30 minutes, 45 minutes or so where students can engage in some form of exercise. So whether that may be walking or yoga or some type of physical activity, that is taken up during that time. After exercise is over, generally there's a resting period where you get to sleep for some time or you can just relax for some time before the next philosophical session begins. Now the afternoon philosophical session around 3:30 is lighter than the session in the morning. The morning class is always very intense, but the philosophical class in the afternoon is a little bit lighter. So we study texts like the Bhagavad Gita and other lighter philosophical texts. Now when I use the word lighter, I don't mean that it is lacking depth. Lighter in the sense that the level of Sanskrit study is little less intensive. After our afternoon philosophy class, we have seva time. So seva time is where that period is dedicated to doing Guru Seva. So your Guru, your Acharya of your Gurukula will assign each student based on his or her strengths and weaknesses a particular seva, a particular service. So that may be whether it be cleaning the murtis in the mandir or sweeping and cleaning the ashram or washing dishes or whatever it may be, that seva is assigned to each student. I have a little bit of background in audio and sound engineering, so I was given the assignment of, taking care of some of the microphones and audio systems, etc. So we all have our assigned seva during that seva period, after which we have some moments to refresh ourselves, to take bath again, do our Sayankala Sandhya, which is our Vedic, daily duties that we do in ashram. After which, around let's say 5:30, 6:30, around that time, we head to the mandir for Mangal Aarti. So whatever main murti is there, the aarti of that deity will be done, followed by a general satsang. General satsang means where there is bhajan, kirtan, all these things. This happens in the evening. So we don't study Vedic scriptures in the evening. So all Vedic scriptures are studied in the morning or in the afternoon, and after sunset we study texts like the Ramayana or the Ramcharitmanas, the Bhagavad Purana, what also known as Srimad Bhagavatam. So we study those things in the period after sunset, after our Mangal Aarti is done in temple, along with bhajan and kirtan. After our evening satsang is completed, we go for dinner. Now most of us who are dedicated students, I should say, generally dinner is kept light, because to wake up again in the morning at 4 a.m, if you eat a very heavy dinner, it's very difficult to get up at that time in order to start your day again. So very light dinner is normally consumed by students in the ashram, after which there is a 9:30 lights out, which means you practice Maunam, there is no more talking. Silence is there in the ashram, no more verbal speech. You go into Maunam until the next morning. Again, your day starts at 4 a.m. So Gurukula life is a taste of what is like. I share with you somewhat of the lifestyle of what a day in the life of Gurukula is like. So we've seen what the day in the life of Gurukula is like, the lifestyle of a person living in ashram in a Gurukula setting. Now a question may arise that what do we actually study when we're in Gurukula for all these years? So there are hundreds of texts, hundreds of works of compositions that we study when we are in Gurukula, some of which we will share in this video. So we study in our ashram, in our Gurukula, the Upanishads. So we studied about 9-10 Upanishads, along with various Sanskrit commentaries. We studied the Bhagavad Gita, that also with various commentaries in Sanskritam. In addition to that, majority of the major works of Bhagavan Sri Adi Shankaracharya, also written in Sanskrit. We study texts like Vivekachudamani, Upadeshahasri, etc. We study, those are texts with 500 plus verses, thousands of verses. We engage in the study of that. In addition to all of this, we do devotional texts also like the Ramcharitmanas, the Purana, the Bhagavad Purana, as well as Yajurveda study. In our Vedic chanting study, our main focus is on Yajurvediya mantras, chants like the Rudram, Namakam, Chamakam, etc., as well as many other Sanskrit literature. I can go on and on, but I think you get the point. It's a very comprehensive, systematic study that we do here in Gurukula. Now, I have seen both sides of education when it comes to learning as a young person in this 21st century. I have attended Western education back home, abroad, as well as, of course, Gurukula life here in India. What's the difference, if you were to ask me, the major difference between these two styles of education? Well, let's just say Gurukula life is generally more disciplined, more structured, more systematic. The level of sadhana, the level of tapas or austerity that is required as a student in Gurukula is more intensive than that of Western education, where you are in high school or you are in primary school or whatever university you may be in, wherein the study time is very little, the class time is very little. You are not under the constant observation of your acharya 24/7. The students also are not very well known by their teachers. Teachers do not spend enough time with students to understand, the ins and outs, the good and bad habits, the rights and wrongs, the strengths and weaknesses of their students. So we see in Gurukula that the acharya or the main teacher of that Gurukula is able to carefully and deeply know the depths of the student. Another question that may be in your mind was, were you stuck in ashram for all these years while you were in Gurukula? Well, no. We made several trips to various holy sites of pilgrimage like Rishikesh, Uttarkashi, and during those trips, during those yatras, we had various satsangs with other Mahatmas in all these holy places. So no, we were not stuck in one place for the entirety of the Gurukula life. So I hope you've got a little bit more exposure about what life is like in Gurukula, what we study, how we think, what's different from Western education, the lifestyle of Gurukula institution of education. Now another doubt may arise in your mind as to why do I have to go to Gurukula and live in an ashram under an acharya with such strict rules of discipline, etc. Have to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning and lights out by 9:30 where I can't talk to my friends at night, no phones to WhatsApp and Instagram, etc. Why should I put myself through such torture? Can't I just learn about, Hinduism, Vedic Shastra and philosophy, or, over the internet or through some Instagram content creator, or maybe just read a book, or why not, I can do a degree in university. So what's the difference between learning in university or online courses versus in Gurukula? Firstly, unlike online courses, these short programs that are there, these quick 1-minute reels that we watch on spirituality, the system of education which is found in Gurukula is systematic, and it is a tried and tested method of imparting knowledge from Guru to Shishya, which has been developed over many, many years. Which means what? Not only does the student of Gurukula learn many different subject matters, but his or her profound depth of understanding in that subject matter is beyond comparison. If you were to see any student who has studied in Gurukula versus a university graduate of Sanskrit or philosophy or any Vedic Shastra, you would definitely notice this difference in terms of depth of understanding. One more point I may add on this is also that when one comes to Gurukula and one learns this knowledge, one receives this knowledge from one's Guru, the purpose of receiving this knowledge is for individual transformation, individual spiritual growth and evolution. When you go to Gurukula, you don't get any certificate. You don't get to add to your resume that I graduated from such and such Gurukula. There is no name, fame, reputation, nothing associated with, no title associated with going to Gurukula. So it's all about your holistic development, your inner growth. When you go to university, when you do these online courses, they all give you a certificate. They all say you graduated with this degree in Sanskrit or Vedic philosophy or whatever it may be. And with that, you go after a job, so you may become a professor in a university, or you may start becoming a content creator or educator in the field of, Sanskrit or philosophy. But in Gurukula, there are no job openings just because someone enters into or someone finishes Gurukula. There is no job where the requirement is you should have studied in Gurukula. So its only purpose is for depth of knowledge, profound depth of knowledge, and one's own inner transformation. And finally, unlike universities, and all of us who have attended university, we all know, do any one of us have reverence for the subject matter which we are studying? Do we have a feeling of devotion and reverence for the subject matter that we are studying, and also the teacher in our school, the professor in our university who is teaching us? This is one of the unique things about Gurukula. Not only is the ashram and Bhagavan worshipped, the subject matter being studied also is worshipped. The scripture is worshipped as well as the teacher. The teacher is honored and respected and revered and worshipped as Bhagavan Shiva, the universal Guru himself. This is one of the unique ideas about Gurukula tradition, the Gurukula education system. This ancient tradition of Gurukula, the institution wherein knowledge is passed on from Guru to Shishya, this most pristine form of education is slowly decaying. And I hope in this video I have done some form of justice in inspiring people not only to want to protect this institution of Gurukula, but also inspire fellow like-minded seekers to also join the revolution in Bharat to reawaken and reinvigorate the Gurukula tradition. Being a person born in the West Indies, being a person not born in the soil of Bharat, I feel very blessed to have had the opportunity and thus treasure this most ancient tradition of Gurukula education. And I hope that through this video, many more may be inspired to not only join the Gurukula tradition, not only learn through the systematic study of education, the Bharatiya way of education, the Gurukula tradition, but also we come to have pride in our ancient systems of teaching and education. When it comes to spiritual and religious content of Bharata, many religious and spiritual content creators are there, and this ignoring of proper systematic study, proper Shastriya Vichara, wherein points are discussed and debated with the right backing of scripture. To encourage this, I would like anyone watching this video, whenever you come across such internet content creators in the field of spirituality and Hindu philosophy, etc., you don't be afraid, ask these questions. What's those questions? Number one, what is the pramana or the authoritative source for what that person is saying? For what that person, whatever message that person is saying, what is the pramana? What is the authoritative source of this teaching or guidance? Secondly, where did you learn this from? Where did you learn this teaching or piece of advice or lesson from? Who is your guru? What tradition do you belong to? Where have you studied this? And finally, the third question, if you are teaching concepts which were presented in Sanskrit language in its original form, have you studied Sanskrit? Do you know Sanskrit? Otherwise, on what strength do you interpret any such statement of scripture? Don't be afraid to ask these questions, otherwise the value of Gurukula systematic education will not find its place. Anyone reading any text, doing any short course may suddenly become the guiding light in our life without depth of understanding, without proper traditional understanding. If you enjoyed this video where we looked at life in Gurukula, then do let us know in the comment section below. Do give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and until next time, stay curious.